Welcome to On the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Fillon and Nick Stevens. And on tonight's episode, we're happy to welcome back the Orioles Director of Player Development, Matt Flood, who is joining us from Florida. Matt, how are you?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
Well, thank you for coming back on the show. And just to we're in spring training right now. Just to give our listeners a sense, what is a typical spring training like for you?
It's long, but it's warm. It's actually very enjoyable. Yeah, it's very enjoyable to be down here. I'm in Sarasota, Florida. I've been here for 3 weeks now. I got a few more to go. The weather is warm. I know what it's like in Baltimore right now. Although I think today was a nice day there from the reports I got from my family. But it's been around 70 to 80 degrees most days. And, we usually start the day with some meetings and then get out on the field. I like to be out on the field with the staff and the players out there for most of the day. Come back in, eat some lunch, have some more meetings, go back to the hotel, or every now and then maybe play some golf, if that's possible. Also, we set up pretty regular staff outing type of things like staff beach volleyball at Siesta Key, which is really nice, staff basketball. Try to, keep everyone together, energized, have a good time.
That sounds like a lot of fun for sure. In your mind, what went well in the farm system last year, and what do you want to see the organization as a whole improve on in 2022?
Well, let's go with the obvious. What went well is we got to play. We got a full season in, and I think we had kind of taken that for granted before, but 2020 taught us better, and so we were able to play all of last year, and we had a lot of good performances throughout the minor leagues. I think we were able to see our hitting department make some strides. That was really encouraging because we did put a lot of work into that. Following up the progress that the pitching department had made the year before. So really just overall, it was great to play a full season. It was great to get some of our philosophies off the ground. And I think we had a lot of success.
Do you feel like now that we're 2 years now removed from 2020, and even last year, I know there were some hiccups to start the year, but do you feel like from a player development standpoint, things are back to quote unquote normal, whatever that may be in today's world? Or are there still some areas that you see like the organization is still catching up on after that 2020 layoff?
It's pretty close to normal. I mean, we're ironing out some kinks. There's still some protocols in place that make things not as easy to do. Things like you would in the past. We have less space now available to us to use because we have to spread out a little more. The food situation is a little different than in the past, but for the most part, I think we're off and running, and we feel pretty normal, and that's really really nice.
Good to hear. Let's talk about some specific players now. And one of our favorites, I know he's one of your favorites as well. Reports this spring on Joey Ortiz have been really positive. Seen some good videos, some good images of him, healthy again after that surgery. Do you think he's back to where he was before that surgery, or is he even better after that surgery?
Well, I mean, it's too early to really say if he's even better, but I can tell you that he's moving around really well. He's energetic. He is himself, who is a lot of fun to be around and a lot of fun to watch. He's already made some incredible defensive plays in a few of our sim games. He's always one that staff or those around notice during, defensive drills, and the players really respect this guy. So, we'll see how the season goes for him, but having him back healthy and in good spirits is step one.
We all know the kind of the hype with Adley Rutschman, and given how close he is to the major leagues right now, it seems like that buzz is only growing this spring. What are you seeing from him, and how is he staying focused through camp?
Adley's dealt with that, I think, for a while now. And to his, one thing that's really special about Adley Rutschman is he has this ability to stay present, to control what he can control, to be where his feet are, and to take advantage of every opportunity that is in front of him. So he's not worried about those things. He's not worried about where he's going to be placed. He's not really worried about the expectations. He's mostly focused on that day's work that he needs to put in, and he's focused on being a great leader, which he is. So, Adley is just going to do what he needs to do at all times, and that's really, it's cliche to say, and it's what you want, but he demonstrates that, which is pretty special.
And in a similar vein, Grayson Rodriguez is now seemed to be just considered the best pitching prospect in baseball by everybody, and even number 3 overall for Fangraphs. Looks like he'll open the year in the high minors. He's pretty polished as it is, but what does he need to work on before he makes his major league debut?
His polish. He still hasn't pitched in AAA. Major League Baseball is really hard. The hitters there are really good, and it's really with someone with his skill set and those, both offensively and on the mound, who are that talented. The next step is just doing it more consistently, and that's essentially what polish means. So for him, it's just corralling what he has and what he can do, and the more consistently he can execute, the more successful he's going to be. And so that's what he'll be working on.
How was it? How impressive was it that Kyle Stowers looked like he hit a bomb off of him in a sim game?
Yeah, 3-run home run off the top of the batting cage over right field, which might have been a Utah Street home run.
Nice.
In Baltimore. I don't know, but it was very, very impressive. Those two guys have competed with each other for a while now. They're great friends, but also when it comes time to facing each other, it's a battle. And Stowers got him that time, but I'm sure Grayson has won that battle a few other times.
Another top pitching prospect in the system, a guy that everyone's equally as excited about, is DL Hall. Unfortunately, because of the lockout, we didn't really get to hear a whole lot about his progress after last season. But have you been able to see DL Hall's progress since the lockout is over? And do you think he has a chance to make the major leagues this year, or are you guys just focused on a full healthy year and maybe AA, maybe AAA this year?
Yeah, today was the first day that I've seen DL in person. I did not see him throw. Saw him in the clubhouse. He looks great. He's in good spirits. So it's way too early for me to really say how he looks on the field. But he is coming off an injury. He's coming off of not throwing a ton of innings last year. So, your question about the major leagues, let's be realistic there in terms of him needing to still pitch some and progress and build up. But we're very excited that he's back and looking forward to him pitching this year.
Heston Kjerstad really has been making progress back from myocarditis. He had a little bit of a setback with the hamstring issue, but prior to that, how did he look in camp?
He's a joy to be around. Let me just say that first. He's had a great attitude. He has come to the field every day. He cuts up with the players. He's got a great competitive way and banter about him, and he works hard. He looks great physically. He's been playing good defense in the outfield and having good at-bats. So I've been very pleased with what I've gotten to see out of him, both defensively and at the plate and with his work ethic so far this spring.
Turn our attention to Gunnar Henderson. He got a short stint at AA Bowie to end the year, and he played great in that championship series. How important was it for him to play in that situation, and do you expect it to help him transition to facing more advanced competition this year?
If you can't tell, we're very much on the train of let's challenge Gunnar Henderson. We like to push him because we know that that's what motivates him. He very much loves challenges. He loves to compete and to face tough competition. And sometimes sometimes, he gets punched in the mouth a little bit. You saw that last year, and that's where he really learns and responds. And so I think moving him to Double A last year, he actually played really well for them in that playoff series. And I think it was a great experience for him. Just being around our upper level players, going back to the alternate site, and then players like Jordan Westberg and Adley and Stowers and so on and so forth, has helped him mature mentally, and then just these challenges are driving him to make improvements, to his game, and absolutely, it's what he needs for his development.
Yeah, I think the last time you were on was right after his rough 2 weeks in Aberdeen, the first 2 weeks, and then from there he was pretty good, pretty good.
It's a hard game. It's not the last time he's going to go through a struggle like that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we also we had Tim DeJohn on a couple of weeks ago, and I know we talked about Gunnar, and he mentioned the work that the mental skills coaching side of what the Orioles implemented was big for Gunnar as well. So good to hear all of that. But you mentioned Kyle Stowers, talked about him and Grayson's battle, but he had an extremely impressive 2021 campaign, broke out one of the fastest rising prospects in the system for especially a lot of fans who maybe didn't really know too much about him last year. But what drove that breakout last season for Kyle Stowers, and where can he still improve this year as he is now on the doorsteps of the major leagues?
Stowers put in a ton of work during the COVID off year. And then he came to instructional league. If you remember, he didn't come to the alternate site. And I think I motivated him a little bit. And then he came to instructional league, and then he realized exactly what he needed to do. And he came to last spring training ready to go. And I also think he spent a lot of time with some of our really good coaches and learned a lot about himself and how to optimize what he does well, which is hit the ball really hard. It's really as hard as anyone in our org on a consistent basis. And he swung at the right pitches, and he hit a lot of balls really hard. So for him, I think it's just continuing to improve his overall consistency of making solid contact. And the more often he does that, the more success he's going to have. You guys mentioned Tim DeJohn. I don't know why you have any other podcast guests, so you should just invite him every week, and then he'll
be our fourth wheel.
He was great on the show. Another guest we had on a while back was Kobe Perez, and we've really been excited to watch the progression that the Orioles international scouting efforts have made and how that's translated to the player development system. It feels like this year could be a particularly special year in Delmarva. Looking at some of the players that could move up, as well as Misael Deson, who ended the year there and looks like he could be back there. So looking at Delmarva's, looking ahead a little bit, how excited should fans be about what the Shorebirds could have this year?
If you are a fan of our organization and you follow it, then you should be pretty excited for the fact that Delmarva is going to have a heavy influence of Latin American players and what that means for the progress of our organization and what Mike Elias has created here. And you'll notice that we hired a significant amount of staff this year that have diverse backgrounds, and there in Delmarva, we're going to have multiple fully Spanish-speaking staff, as well as others that understand the language. So that group in Delmarva is going to be fully supported by the staff and the entire organization. So it's going to be really fun to see a team with a heavy influence of Latin American players start to creep into a full season baseball.
If you could pick one player that you expect to be at Delmarva, at least at some point this year, to break out and maybe, burst onto the scene up to the top 30 prospects this year, who would it be?
The two guys that I really enjoy being around and watching play are the infielder Isaac De Leon And then the outfielder, you mentioned him, Misael Desan. Both of these guys are big, physical, athletic dudes with tools. And, the sky's the limit for both of them. And we're gonna challenge them. We're gonna give them every opportunity we can, and it's good. They'll be fun to watch.
Some pretty good trading there by Michael Elias to land those two guys. And on a different note, with the shortened spring training, does that make it harder for someone like Kyle Bradish or a Michael Baumann to earn a spot in the major league rotation just because there's not that ramp up, or are they pretty much on the same playing field as everybody else coming to camp?
That's a good question. I don't know if I can answer that appropriately. I mean, I think that they're here just like everyone else. They both have electric stuff. If all things are equal, I think that they should have a chance. But that's more a question that I think is steered towards Mike Elias and Brandon Hyde and Chris Holt.
That's fair.
What did you see from Kyle Bradish last year? Because he was kind of this relative unknown after the trade with LA, but I know he received a lot of hype from yourself and others going into the year. Not comparisons, but putting him on this level, close to Grayson Rodriguez and DL Hall in terms of talent. And then he came out, dominated AA, had ups and downs in AAA, but ended the year as one of the top pitchers in all of minor league baseball over his last 5 or 6 starts. What did you see out of him as he progressed through the year in AAA?
Well, he has really good raw stuff, and that's why I say he's kind of right there behind those two horses, because his stuff and the way that hitters react to facing his stuff is similar. Like they don't like hitting off of Kyle Bradish. So for him, it's about polish. It's about consistently repeating and executing that excellent raw stuff. And I think you saw in AA, he didn't have to execute it quite as precisely, and he dominated that level. He goes to AAA where hitters are a little bit better, and he wasn't as sharp, and he didn't get away with it as much. So then he realized that, and he made some adjustments, and he started to get better. And that's essentially what player development's all about. So we saw that last year, and our hope, is that we continue to see that as he wherever he lands this spring, and then continuing to improve his ability to execute pitches.
Another pitcher who I think a lot of Orioles fans are still excited about, Dean Kramer. And he had a rough 2021 at the major leagues and in AAA, a little bit of ups and downs there, but he's got that good track record in the minor leagues. And we saw that potential that he flashed when he made his pro debut back in 2022, MLB debut. Do you think his struggles were more about him just being in his own head, or what are you all working with Kramer on as the spring training begins?
Yeah, that'd be another good question, I think, more for Chris Holt and maybe even Justin Ramsey. I mean, last year was a tough year for, a few guys. And, I don't really want to speculate on exactly why. I'm not going to say he was in his head. I'm not going to say it was something else. I think it's a really hard game. And for whatever reason, he didn't have as good a season as he probably would have liked to have had. I imagine he's put in a lot of work. I saw him today. He looks good physically. And we'll see how he comes out this spring.
Looking at position players that are a little lower in the minor leagues, Colton Cowser was obviously excellent after coming into the system last year out of the draft. And from what we've seen and what we've heard, it looks like he's put on some good weight over the offseason and might be able to tap into that power a little bit more. What will he need to work on this year, and how far do you think he is from the major leagues at this point?
Well, he needs to play. I mean, I said this about Adley. He needs to play a full minor league season and go through that challenge. It's a real challenge to play a full minor league season, play every day, go through the ups and the downs, the not feeling great and still having to play, facing pitchers multiple times over a season, facing teams that game plan against you. So for him, it's experiencing all the things that go into playing a full season, and that's really what it's going to be his challenge. But in terms of his skill set, he's got everything that you're looking for. A lot of feel to hit, which is really exciting. He's a joy to be around. This is a guy that Oriole fans should be excited about and should go out and watch because he can do a lot of things.
Seems like a great personality out there. I don't think staying loose will be an issue for him.
Well, they get along so well. All the play, it's really amazing. I was talking with Adley about this in the outfield a couple weeks ago, and just the camaraderie amongst that group. It's very much a brotherhood where they get on each other and kind of make fun of each other, and then when it's time to compete, it's cutthroat in the most healthy way possible, and that's pretty special thing to be a part of, and the players recognize it, which is kind of cool.
Where does that come from? Is that something the organization is putting effort into, or is just this group of guys just happens to get along real good?
I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination of having drafted guys with really good makeup. It starts when you have a guy like Adley, who's just an incredible makeup guy, and then you start surrounding him with others. And then the organization has some values that we preach and that we try to encourage, and they hear it and they latch on to it, and it just sort of snowballs and builds upon itself. But the credit really is with them and owning it and wanting to create this culture of this group of guys who are going to one day compete for a World Series.
One of those names that I hope is on that World Series winning roster, one of my favorite guys in this entire system, is Kobe Mayo. His upside appears to be through the roof. What impressed you most about him last season, his first little taste of pro ball there?
It impressed me how well he handled Delmarva, to be honest. I mean, he was young and had never really played or faced professional pitching before. He handled the FCL pretty well, and then we thought, let's send him up to Delmarva with the rest of those newly drafted players, and give him a taste and see how that challenge is. And he was one of the better players there, obviously, and he hit very, very well and consistently. So that was really exciting to me. I've been very impressed with his maturity mentally. And the way that he handles himself on a day in and day out basis for a young guy. People respect him, and he comes to work, every day. So very, very impressed with the full package with Kobe Mayo.
Yes. What about, I feel like we have to ask, I know Eric Garfield's watching, so this one's for Eric. Kobe Mayo, a lot of talk, prospect outlets talk about Kobe Mayo potentially moving to the outfield down the road. And we know this is a discussion, years in the making, but as a third baseman, what kind of skill set does he bring to the hot quarter over there?
Well, the most obvious thing is he has an 80 arm, as we like to say. I think you guys are familiar with the scouting term, but he has a bazooka at third base, and he throws very true from a high slot, and it comes across very straight, and that stands out. He is tall, he is big, and he's probably going to get a little bit bigger, but he's athletic, and he works at it. He wants to be a good defensive player. So, I think he has all the skills to play third base. And ultimately, only one person can play third base when you're on the major league team, and that I think will be what determines where he plays ultimately. But he's athletic and skilled and has a lot of tools to be versatile. So we'll see what happens. He's still pretty young, and we have a lot of time to figure that out.
Another guy we're pretty high on, and maybe even higher on him than anyone, is Gene Pinto. Are we justified in feeling that way? I know Baseball Prospectus mentioned his size and his velocity as limiting factors to him sticking in the rotation long term, but we like him a lot.
He's performed well so far, hasn't he? Yeah. And he's got a pitch that hitters don't like, and that's good. And we'll keep working on the rest. So, yeah, you should be you were right to be excited about him. Baseball is hard, so we'll see what happens. But so far, that's been a pretty nice return, in that trade.
Jordan Westburg really, I think, impressed a lot of people last year because he's someone who can play all over the infield dirt, has a good combination of power and speed, and it sounds like his makeup is another guy that's off the charts. But he was challenged a little bit. You kind of saw him go through some ups and downs last year. What impressed you with the way that he handled that, and what do you see for him this year?
Well, he played at 3 levels last year, which is not easy to do. And what impresses me about Jordan is he is the same guy every single day. He's the same guy, no matter what. He's a real professional. He's steady, and he's focused. So he went through struggles just like everybody else. Like I've said a bunch of times already in this call, baseball's hard, but you wouldn't know it from the way that he carries himself. I think I even saw him get hit in the face with a ball last year, and his whole face was swollen up, and he was still trying to play, and he was trying to talk to me like there was nothing wrong, and you couldn't even open his left eye. That's just who he is. He's a grinder. He's highly competitive. He has high expectations of himself, but he stays very level when it comes to his demeanor and the way that he carries himself.
Another guy who was in Bowie, but in the rotation side. This is Kyle Branovich. I got to ask about Kyle because he's been getting a lot of love recently. He's a guy that I know I watched him a lot in college at Elon, being a JMU grad. I'm glad he's on my team now that I get to cheer for him instead of against him. But what is it that makes Branovich so deceptive and so have that dominant year he did in Bowie last year in his first pro season? What is it that sticks out with him?
Well, what sticks out is that he can pitch. He's got multiple weapons that he can attack you with. So, the hitters have a hard time canceling out one pitch or another pitch and just looking for something specific. So hitters are a little bit off balance with who he is, and he's looked very very good. Maybe it's Eric Birdland who has told you about him looking good. I'm not sure, but he has had some very good outings so far for us this spring. Breaking ball, fastball. I mean, everything. He's someone that I'm excited to see throwing some real games.
And then going back, thank you again for your time again. But a couple more questions.
Of course.
Going down even lower to lower levels of the minor leagues, looking ahead to the FCL season, can you give us some names, some guys that you like, guys that Orioles fans should be on the lookout for that could start the year in the FCL a little bit later? Maybe some younger international guys who are really popping or could really pop in and explode this year onto the scene.
Well, the obvious guys are, Samuel Basayo and Michael Hernandez. Those two guys hopefully will make their way over sometime in April, and we'll get to play there in Florida. And they're two very talented guys who are obviously talked about a lot. I would say De Los Santos, the other infielder who had a really good DSL last year. He's someone to keep an eye on. He plays multiple positions and he's got a really good field of hit. So I'd add him to that list as well.
All right, just two more for you. I heard you talk about how Adam Hall could be this year's surprise player. He came into camp looking pretty good. Obviously had a little bit of a rough year. We were a little hard on him last year, but what has he done to make strides in that department and try to get back on track?
Yeah, I said that because he's physically looks great. He's running well. He's had a great attitude, and he's been performing pretty well in practice and games. I think he's been sort of reinvigorated and feels like he's got something to prove a little bit. he's also got a lot of competition around him. So I just had this feeling that there's a chance he might have a little resurgence this year and get back, on the map a little bit.
One
We'd
question
love
I
to
do
see
have
that.
about
Oh, go
him,
ahead,
real
Zach.
quick, and then I'll let Bob wrap this up. We saw him become a little bit more versatile last year by playing some outfield in addition to middle infield. How do you think he handled that, and is that something you plan to keep doing with him going forward?
I think he handled it beautifully, and I think he wants to play. And what we say to him and anyone else is the more positions you can play, the better chance you have to play, because only one person can play shortstop, only one person can play second base, only one person can play wherever. If you can play them all, then you can get in that lineup. So he has that versatility. He can play all those positions: center field, out, left field, right field, wherever. And the first day he showed up, he asked me. He said, "Where do you want me to spend most of my time?" And I said, "You're going to need to spend your time a lot of places. So, get as many reps as you can in center field during batting practice, and go work in the infield, during other times." So he's getting his work in all over. And yes, maybe you look at what could be the Bowie roster this coming year. He's going to need to play all over, because shortstop is going to be very crowded.
Yeah, it's crazy how deep this system is. There's so many guys we didn't even get a chance to talk about. Drew Rahm, Zach Peak, who I wrote about today. The list goes on. Connor Norbury, Taron Vavra, but completely off topic. What are the odds that Mike Elias would be willing to come on this podcast? And could you put in a good word for us?
He's a pretty busy guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll talk to him, but I wouldn't keep your
Yeah,
I wouldn't get your hopes up on that one. He's pretty busy, and I wouldn't get your hopes up on that one.
of course. No, can't thank you enough for coming on.
I want to tell Zach thanks for coaching my kids in Bolo City flag football. That's really really awesome, and to volunteer for that, and my boys have a blast going to that.
Oh, my pleasure. They're great kids and enjoy doing that every Saturday.
That's awesome.
Well, Matt, thank you for coming on. And I think our live stream viewers, and I think the three of us, appreciate that you brought the best background that you could bring to this show. No one's going to top that. Obviously, the three of us are not going to top that tonight. I don't think anybody's going to top that for the rest of this year. So good job.
Yeah, it's a good spot. The Sarasota Modern Hotel in Sarasota. They treat me very well.
Love it. All right,
Well, thank you.
maybe we can get you back on mid-season or something like that.
That'd be great.
All right, well, thank you, Matt. And
All right, guys.
All right, see ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
that was Matt Blood, the Director of Player Development for the Orioles. And before we move on to our next topics tonight, just a little bit of reaction there, and I'll start with Nick.
I want baseball to be played right now. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to watch these guys live. Yeah, a lot of good information there. Guys being challenged clearly, like you said. Orioles like to challenge these guys, and hopefully we see that with some aggressive assignments this year as well. That'll be interesting to see when these rosters get released, where guys end up. But yeah, it sounds like you hear Matt Blood talk, and it's nice, it's comforting that this organization is doing a lot of things the right way. They're putting guys in the right position. They're surrounding them with the right coaches and instructors and resources. And it just makes me extremely excited for baseball to start here in just a couple of days, really.
There's really only one thing I got from this interview was Carlos Correa's imminently signing in Baltimore. No, that was a lot of fun. I can talk to Matt Blood every week. I mean, the guy is just a fountain of knowledge when it comes to this system, and just wish we could have gone longer. I just love talking to the guy.
Yeah, when you listen to people like Matt Blood and Tim Dijon, and really anybody from the Orioles system that has been on the show, you just get the sense that everything is heading in the right direction. Things aren't siloed. There just is a cohesive plan in place, and that's always reassuring.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like I've said before on the show that, we spend every Monday this week, Monday and Tuesday, talking about join us tomorrow night live too. Talking about the players in the system and putting the highlights out and highlighting the guys, the work they do on the field. But I think the behind the scenes work is what I've been most impressed with this organization. And honestly, I feel like we should spend more time and bring more of the coaches and instructors on so they can tell their story, because I think Orioles fans would greatly enjoy that, because clearly they're doing a lot of things right. Maybe we're too positive sometimes, but I'll take it because I really enjoy what I see. I enjoy the product on the field.
Yeah, 100%. And I love the fact that he talked about these guys just get along so good. And I mean, maybe that's the X factor that's going to really turn things, to a playoff contender, a World Series contender, is if, we got all the talent in the world, but if they can gel and really work together well the way they have throughout the system, that can't be a bad thing.
So we'll get into some other topics here tonight, but first we want to welcome a couple new members to our Patreon community. We usually have a shout out at some point during the episode. In order to get the interview in with Matt Blood, we did that first, and we decided to make this sort of the transition to the next topic. So I'll let Bob shout out our new members.
I think it's only one, but his name is so good that it's really, really worth more than that. It's Cannon Fazenbaker. Love the name, Cannon. Welcome to the club. He signed up for a year straight up the bat. Paid for the full year up front, and he's in the WhatsApp group having a good time. So welcome aboard.
Yeah, welcome, Cannon, and thank you for your support. So the big news in baseball that, obviously took place in between episodes was that Jose Iglesias signed a 1-year deal with the Colorado Rockies. Oh, no, hold on. Yeah, the lockout ended. The thing that we spent months talking about, analyzing, overanalyzing, even though we were doing a minor league show, we didn't have to talk about it every week. It still sort of loomed in the background of every show. It's finally over. We will get a 162-game season. A lot of changes coming to the game. Maybe for some, it didn't go far enough in the players' favor, but I'll just start with Bob here. Having the new CBA obviously is good because we have baseball now. We can look forward to, Orioles opening day. But what were kind of your takeaways from the deal?
Baseball is back. There are going to be 162 games. That was my number one. Obviously I'm rooting for the players to get what they deserve, but at the same time, I'm just so sick of the back and forth and just so sick of dragging on. So glad it was signed. First of all, I do think there were a lot of good things for the players. They have that new pre-arb pool that they can go to get some players paid a little bit more money before they hit arbitration. I think that's a good thing to get locked in there for future negotiations. I like that. Well, I did like that we were back to 9 innings, no matter what, if it's a doubleheader, if it's no ghost runners, but it seems like they might actually add the ghost runners back, which I'm not as upset about as it seems a lot of people are. But yeah, I think it's relatively fair considering how far behind the players were, from the past couple of CBAs. You can't win it all back at the same time. So I'm just happy they're playing ball. April 8th, right? Let's go.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of good things there. You mentioned the money. I do like this extra money pool available to players that perform well. Minor leaguers are still getting paid $12,000 a year, less than that for rookie ball, but that's another issue for another day, I guess. I like the DH. We knew it was coming, but now it's official. I absolutely love it. I know I was listening to a podcast this morning of an NL team, and they were upset that we'll never get to see the Bartolo Colons or the Madison Bumgarner home runs ever again. And they're going to fill their DH spots with guys who hit 220. I'm like, well, it's better than a pitcher who hits 013 for the year. So I'm glad the DH is here in both leagues. I love the schedule too. This new, more balanced schedule that's coming. Seeing more teams at Camden Yards, seeing more of the NL teams, seeing the Padres, seeing the Dodgers come to Camden Yards more often will be a lot of fun as just a baseball fan. I don't want to waste my money going to Nats Park to watch those teams. I know I could do that, but I want to have fun when I watch baseball, and Nats Park makes me just sad inside whenever I go there. But I'm interested, y'all's opinion on, I know the optioning, there are attempts to change the service time rules and service time manipulation. And one of the things that was the optioning, only being able to limit guys 5 times, I think still that's too many times. But I don't know if you guys think that's a good thing. Is that going to stop anything, or what are y'all's thoughts on that?
First of all, I do love that more balanced schedule that's going to start in 2023. That's amazing. Not just because, we have to play these mountain of challenge in the AL East with the Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox, and Rays, but just because, like you said, I want to see more. If I'm going to get my son into baseball, I'd like to be able to take him and see more of all around the league, the best players. But yeah, now I forgot what you asked in the first place.
Optioning 5 times.
Yeah, I think that's too much for sure. But I think it's like one of those things, get it on the books, and then you can kind of, work it down from there. Maybe it'll go down to 4 the next time and then 3. I think 3 would be a good number personally, but I do like that it's at least on the books and now they can work on it from here.
Yeah, I still feel like 5 is a lot, but there needs to be some sort of limit. And like Bob said, we can work on it from here. I do want to say this, though. Nationals Park is not as sad of a place to see a game as Guaranteed Rate Field.
I haven't been there yet.
Yeah, that's not exactly the happiest place on earth to watch a baseball game. But yeah, I think that 5 times is still a lot, but there needs to be some sort of out for players that just are routinely optioned up and down repeatedly with the same organization. So, yeah, I think this is a good thing.
How about the draft lottery? Is this going to curtail tanking?
See, I don't know. First of all, I hate that it's 20 rounds now moving forward, which I figure we all knew that was coming, right? I mean, obviously you can make the argument, and I get it, that 40 rounds is too much, especially now that they've eliminated an entire level of minor league baseball. But like, I don't follow college baseball religiously throughout the season or high school baseball, but as we get close to the draft, I love just researching as many players as possible. I love the whole draft process. And I really I know the stories of 35th round picks making it in the big leagues are pretty rare, but I love finding those diamonds in the rough and watching them develop it across the minor leagues. And that's just me. I don't care if you're a 38th round relief pitcher. I'm going to follow your career. I want to see if you make it or not. It sucks that those opportunities, there's fewer chances for guys to break out, to have that moment. Maybe you're a Logan Michaels who retired a couple months ago, and you only get a couple games in pro ball, but still, like, he had an opportunity. So more of those opportunities are going to be gone, I feel like. There was an interesting nugget thrown in there, this draft and follow thing. I don't know if you guys saw that, but if you draft a guy and after the 10th round, if they don't sign, they can go JUCO, and then the team can sign you. Like, I guess they keep your rights maybe, and they can sign you after the JUCO season. I'm going to talk to Stephen Loftus about that next time he gets on. What are his thoughts on that? But with the lottery, like, I don't know. I just think the lottery is dumb. Like, is it really going to stop much? I mean, I'm not going to tank for. Nobody's tanking for the first overall pick. I get that, it's baseball. These guys are 4 or 5 years away from the major leagues. I do get maybe you tank to get that pool. You want that bigger pool of money for the draft so you can acquire more talent, get more players, not necessarily just that 1-1 pick. But like, okay, so I don't have to be the worst team in the league. I could be the 6th worst team in the league and still get the number 1 overall pick. I still have equal odds as another team. Like, I want to hear an argument why it's a great idea. And I haven't sought this argument out yet. I'm not going to lose sleep stressing over this, but like, I just want to hear an argument as to why this is a good thing or why it was needed. Cause I just don't get it.
Well, you're not going to get it from me. So I'll just say that. I think that it's not on its own going to solve tanking. Stephen Loftus talked about that when he was on our show. There's so many other things that you're going to have to fix if you don't want tanking. And I also just go back to the idea that I think most fans would be okay with the concept of rebuilding if it took 2 or 3 years rather than 5 or 6. And the draft doesn't do anything to solve that. Honestly, I don't know that in baseball you're going to find a combination of solutions that's going to make a rebuild move faster. But I just don't think on its own it's going to solve the issue of tanking. The only thing I guess it really does is, maybe a team that does go for it and has some bad luck is rewarded with a higher draft pick if you see value in that, and then the draft lottery gets that. And then, it's probably television programming sometime in November or December, an hour on MLB Network or whatever of ping pong balls bouncing around. MLB has never had that. My guess is that it's never going to be to the level of the NBA draft lottery, but it's something. But as far as tanking goes, no, on its own, it's not going to solve anything. And I think I don't think the draft lottery is going to go away anytime soon. But I think that 5 years from now, we're going to be talking about, okay, what else do they have to do with draft lottery to get rid of tanking? Because it didn't get rid of tanking.
Yeah. And the one interesting thing that I didn't realize until I saw it reported was that every team that doesn't make the playoffs, so 18 teams, will be in the lottery. Just most of them will have minuscule, less than 1% odds. But could you imagine the Yankees just missed the playoffs by a game and then boom, first pick, boom, second pick, something like that? That would be pretty crazy. But and also the draft and follows. I mean, that used to be a thing, and then they got rid of it. I'm not sure why they brought it back, but I guess you take some high upside high schooler who's not expected to sign, and it's kind of a backup plan in case one of your top picks you can't sign them, or maybe something happens where you're able to sign them later. I don't know. I thought it was more of a thing before there was hard draft slots, or not hard draft slots, but just the slot values and the limit of the amount of money you could do in the draft. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this develops. Maybe like you said earlier, this is one step, like the option thing. It's one step as they feel this thing out. Because I just don't know. Like I don't feel like attacking the draft is going to stop this. If you're trying to eliminate tanking or whatever you want to call it, it's not like the NBA where you can go 2-80 one year. You get that first pick, you sign one good free agent. If you're in the Eastern Conference, like you can win that pretty easily. Win 50 games, you win the Eastern Conference because it's so bad. But like MLB is not like that. So I don't know how you attack that, but I guess we'll see. There's Roberto there, the impact of the international draft. That's something that I think it was Effectively Wild just did an episode about that. I'm interested to hear more research about that. I can't speak to that. Like my knowledge of the international side of the game, we're Orioles fans. We're just learning, and now we're changing this whole thing. But yeah, that is interesting. I'm curious. I've heard a lot of good. I've heard a lot of bad. I don't really have a set opinion yet, but I don't know if you guys have an opinion about the international draft yet. But I wonder how it does impact. I wonder what the conversations are like with Kobe Perez and Mike Elias behind the scenes of. Did they know this was coming? Is this where they already prepared for this, or how is this going to impact the Orioles? I don't know, but I'm curious to find out, though.
I did hear that episode of Effectively Wild, and I know that this has been on the table for a while. I think Baseball America reported that it was coming like 3 years ago, so I have to imagine they're at least prepared for if it does eventually come. I don't know if it's better or worse than what the current system is. I don't know if there's anything worse than the current system as far as recruiting these kids when they're like 12 years old. So yeah, I'm gonna just see how it plays out. I can't have an opinion on this. I don't know. Like you said, we're so new to the international game as a whole. So what do you think, Zach?
Yeah, it's hard to know because I don't know that we'll know the actual structure of the draft until sometime this summer. Because they kind of, put the decision off a little bit, which was really one of the last big sticking points in getting a deal done. I'm not surprised that it has come up. I mean, Ben Badler talked about it when he was on here, and it is something that I think has been a priority, especially for the owners, for a long time now. One thing that I was a little confused but still sort of intrigued by was saw it reported somewhere that the draft order would not be determined by win-loss record or by a lottery, but it would actually go in pods where you have these groups of teams that basically rotate through different parts of the draft order each year or every few years. And I didn't quite understand the merit behind it, but I'm not opposed to it. So it's one thing I'm interested in learning about if that actually stays on the table throughout this process.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, that is interesting. Go ahead, Nick.
So I did hear that, and again, because this still has to be negotiated out, so we don't know how this is going to look like yet. Probably won't till next year, but if I did see that pod thing, and it'd be like every 4 years you'd get draft at or near the top of the draft, which I don't hate that. I guess that's fine too. You can continue to be put out a championship ball club at the major league level, and still every 4 years you're going to get that talent. There's not a Luis Robert or a Yohan Moncada every single year in the international side of things. I feel like so. Every 4 years, I still feel like that's fine. Everybody gets a fair shot at some of the top talents. It is going to stink when there is that once in a lifetime type prospect sitting there and it's not your year and you don't even have an opportunity. Although I do think, now that I think about it,
you can trade picks.
Yeah. So trading picks, like still like trading, bonus money. So honestly, I don't really care what the draft order is, because I feel like if you're a good, smart, savvy team that's got a good international presence, like the Orioles are building, and you see that guy and it's not your year, like, okay, see if you can trade some middling prospects for the number one pick in the draft. Like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, you want to stop tanking? Let's do this with the major league draft pods. You don't know when you're drafting at the top. Trade picks. I mean, maybe that's the solution. It'll be interesting, at least. I don't know. Something more, a new strategy to add. Something, baseball doesn't usually have that many new things every once in a while. So it would be something to talk about for sure. I guess the last thing we should talk about is service time manipulation and how that has been completely ended. I just hit my microphone. It's been completely
ended so
ended.
much that Bob just almost knocked his microphone off his desk.
I'm so excited they put an end to it. Adley will be up opening day no matter what.
Yeah,
I mean, does it? Did we end service time? I don't know. I haven't really dove into this, so I don't know. But what I was looking at, like, are you really going to bank on? Is it that first year? So like, you bring Adley up this year, and if he finishes top 2 or top 3 in Rookie of the Year, it's whatever. It's good. You win. Player wins. Or is it before he hits arbitration?
First year.
First. Is any team really going to bank on that? Like, gamble on that? Absolutely not. Like, even Adley Rutschman, as great as his prospect as he is, darn well the Orioles aren't going to bet on him winning or finishing top 3 in Rookie of the Year to get that extra year. No, whatever. I still think he's the catcher on opening day, but this isn't going to stop anything.
Yeah, I don't know how many plans is going to change. What I sort of feel like the final result of this was the enough players and enough owners just decided the Chris Bryant situation was so atrocious that they vowed it would never be repeated again. Because if the Cubs had held Chris Bryant back in 2015 under this system, he would have ended up getting that year of service time because he won Rookie of the Year that year. The Cubs would have gotten a draft pick. They would have gone to the playoffs. Everybody would have been happy. So it almost sort of felt like, okay, that situation will never happen again. But I don't know, and we'll see, a year or two into this, what it does. I don't know what it does to address, the Orioles and Adley Rutschman, or the Royals and Bobby Witt Jr. Like, the Orioles and the Royals are both going to be pretty bad this year. And that extra year of service time for both of those players could mean something down the road. And I just don't know that they're going to be willing to sacrifice it, especially because looking at those two guys, especially, how much do they really have to do to get into the top 3 of American League Rookie of the Year voting? And I know that it's not easy. Ryan Mountcastle was a perfect example of why you don't want to take that award for granted last year. He had a good year and he couldn't get into the top 3. But you also feel like Adley Rutschman could have a good year, not maybe a great year, and still get in the top 3 for Rookie of the Year voting.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. So, yeah, I think the rule is if you are delayed your start time and you get the top 2 spots in Rookie of the Year, then you get the whole year no matter what. If you start the year opening day on the roster and you finish top 3, the team is rewarded with draft picks. Yeah, I wonder if some teams might, instead of start delaying people right out the gate. Look at Jarred Kelenic last year. They delayed him to get that extra service time. But if they started him on opening day and he struggled the way he did, then they're justified in sending him down for as long as they want, let him rebound. He'll come back up. He'll still miss that period of time to get him that extra year, and he has no chance at the Rookie of the Year at that point. So I wonder if service time manipulation, it might go from opening day till later in the season. I don't know.
I don't know how all this is going to play out. My only question is, we're going to wake up tomorrow morning, right, and see the article about how the Reds are bad for baseball, right? And they're ruining sport. But
Busteroni, where you at?
We're not going to see that anytime soon. So, no.
Yeah, if I don't wake up tomorrow morning and, as I always do, check in on Twitter, even though I don't have an account on there, and just creep around for a half an hour. If I don't wake up tomorrow morning and see a tweet thread from Buster Olney, Ken Rosenthal, or any of the other national baseball writers about how the Reds are bad for baseball, I'm going to be extremely disappointed. So get on that. I know you're listening, Ken Rosenthal and Buster Olney. Get on it.
So are you going to be disappointed first thing in the morning, Zach?
Yeah. I'll just have to read John Mioli's newsletter instead.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So speaking of which, we will have John Mioli on tomorrow to talk about the top 30 prospect list of Baseball America that's coming out in the new 2022 prospect handbook. He wrote that. He'll give us some insight. We'll also talk about his new newsletter, Maximizing Playoff Odds, a Baltimore Orioles newsletter, which is available through Substack. I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to go subscribe and check that out before John comes on the show tomorrow, because we're going to talk about some articles he's written there recently. We're going to wrap up this show, though, with news of experimental rule changes coming to the minor leagues this year. We're going to see expanded pitch clock in all full season levels. The automated ball strike system will have a limited rollout in AAA. For the Norfolk Tides, though, that means they're only going to have it at Charlotte. So when they play the Knights this year on the road, they're going to have it, but not at other ballparks. It'll be more expansive in AAA West. A few other things there. We're also going to see the shift band, I believe, every level below AAA this year. So seems like MLB, knowing how its league is going to look in 2023 and beyond, trying to maybe iron out some of these rules before they get to the majors next year. But Nick, what are your thoughts on this?
Some of these rules, I don't really care. It's fine. No one's really going to notice. My biggest one is the pitch clock. I am 100% yes. Put this. I think it needs to be strictly enforced, though, by the umpires. You don't need a minute in between each pitch. Like, I don't care if a game's going to last 3.5 hours if it's constant, playing. If there's constantly pitches being thrown, there's action on the field. I will sit 3.5 hours. I'll sit 6 hours and watch the game every single night. But it's the fact that, it's 3.5 hours and there's a half hour of dead time in there. Like, you can get rid of that. So younger pitchers are used to this. Older pitchers can just deal with it. Like, if you get rocked, it's because you're bad, not because you had to speed up your routine by 10 seconds. Put the pitch clock in and enforce it. I can't believe they're ruining baseball with these bigger bases. Like, I'm not even going to talk about that one. The shift, though, like, I don't really know how I feel about it. Like, I don't know, maybe I was having Brian Baker on last week and he's turning me to this like old man, get off my lawn type deal. Like, if you want to restrict it by having all four guys in the infield, dirt, I'm fine with that. But I also see the reverse where, like, the data is there. If the data says put your defenders here, you're going to get the out. Like, if I'm the manager, I'm putting my guys there. I think that should be fair game. So, but at the same time, like, I would enjoy more balls in play. I would enjoy more offense and action on the field, speeding up the game a little bit. Again, it's not this. Everybody's the argument, well, the pitch clock will cut off 10 minutes. Is 10 minutes really going to make a difference? It's not about cutting 10 minutes off a game. It's just about getting action on the field. The robo umps too, I guess I'm kind of the same way. I am excited to know that it's at least in Charlotte, so Orioles pitchers will get a small opportunity to work with it. I do like that strategy of you got to learn the umpire as well. I like the idea of the umpire maybe giving that pitcher an extra inch if he's feeling it that day, not going to lie. But at the same time, like, the right call needs to be made every single time. So I think that, again, you got to hone that and get that right, because I know they've had a lot of issues with it in the Atlantic League and stuff. Especially like if you're a guy like Cal Bradish, that big breaking curveball, you might have some hiccups with that. But that with the challenges, being able to challenge pitches, I think that will, as long as it improves the overall call percentage, I'm fine with that. Bring on all those rules. But my biggest one, if I had to pick just one, it's the pitch clock. Bring it and enforce it.
Yeah, I was just nodding. I'm surprised I don't have a headache now. I was nodding so much agreement with what you're saying, Preach on, about the pitch clock. Yeah, as long as you enforce it, I think it would be great. And it's not because, like you said, the time of games, it's the pace of games more than just the flat out time. So, yeah, the bases, it's fine. It's whatever. The shift, that is the one that I'm like, I try to keep an open mind. So I can be convinced, but I do not. Immediately, I'm not for banning the shift, but I want to see how it plays out. At least it's going to be in the minor league level with 3 A ball, 2 A balls and double A ball. Then we'll get plenty of data on that and see if it actually does, get some more balls in play and make it more exciting. If that's the case, then okay, maybe I could get behind it. You can always backtrack, I guess, if you need to eventually. And was that it?
I mean, those are the big ones, yeah. And I think that I had mixed feelings on banning the shift because I've always kind of thought that maybe there's some sort of middle ground where you could limit the number of shifts that a team is allowed to deploy in a game and still have the strategy there, but not make it a constant thing where, the number 8 hitter for the Angels is up and there's a shift on because they know have the data here to know where the ball is going to go 45% of the time or 55% of the time. I just, that to me does kind of take some of the action out of the game. And I feel like the goal, if we're going to really fine tune the sport here, which is what is clearly a priority for, the major leagues in the coming years, you have to find a way to introduce more action into it. And I think the shift is going to be part of that. I think the pitch clock's going to be part of that. And, large bases, though, I think you're just going to lose a whole generation of fans with that one. I mean, they don't want the third baseman to have like an island. They want them on as narrow of a base as possible. So
what are you going to use softballs next? Like, come on, just forget baseball. I just can't. Fernando Tatis is hurt. Adley Rutschman's was not going to start on opening day. The bases are getting bigger. Like, why are we even playing this game anymore? Why don't we become a basketball podcast? Are the Wizards good? Are they any good?
I don't know, actually, but I think they should go the other way. I think the bases should be 6 inches, and it's like you got to really try to stay on that base. I mean, it's crazy. Who cares?
Yeah. I would say, I don't know. The shift thing, though, is interesting discussion, I think, because again, I don't have a hard opinion either way. I can be convinced both ways. And honestly, all of these rules, give it a year, give it 2 years, no one's going to be talking about them anymore. It's like Bob talked about earlier. We don't get a lot of change at one time in baseball. Anything gets changed in baseball, people freak out. You make a little cosmetic change to Camden Yards, people lose their minds. Like, no one's going to talk about any of this stuff in 2 years. Probably because there'll be something else to talk about. But like, I don't know, the extreme shifts I do get, like putting Manny Machado out in like short right field, like, do we need to be doing that? Like, I don't know. That's the only thing that gets me. But again, either way, I'm cool with it. But it's an interesting conversation, I think.
Yeah, I think a sports league has to be open to change. I mean, for me, it's like, make the sport the best it can be. Don't just put your head in the mud just because that's how it has always been. So I'm open-minded. I don't know. It seems like, I guess it's not that much different than like you can't stand in the box in basketball for 5 seconds or whatever, but I don't know. It sounds different.
And I will say that I think experimenting with it in the minors is a way to know how it's going to work when it gets to the major leagues. And it does feel like with one of the outcomes of the CBA is going to be that the league is now going to have more autonomy to make these changes on a year-over-year basis. So, do I think that they already know the pitch clock's coming in 2023? Yeah, but it would still be good to see what the data looks like after a full year at every level of the minor leagues. And the same with the shift. I mean, you want to see how that looks and, what would be the best plan? Do you implement it on some sort of gradual scale if that's possible? Do you go full out ban 1 year? I did want to kind of go to this point though, because this comes up a lot with the shifts. Do you think it's going to change the, outcome a little bit for some of these 3 true outcome hitters that maybe have had to go more home run and walk in recent years? Because if you're, Joey Gallo, you got an extreme shift on you. Now those guys, might be able to put the ball in play a little bit more.
It's possible, but I still feel like a home run's better than a single no matter what, right? So I don't know how much it's going to change, but just with batting average for balls in play, they might increase their average by, 10, 20 points alone from that. But I don't think Chris Davis would have his career would have gone much different if the shift was banned per se.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing though. Like, you're not going to turn a Chris Davis type hitter into a 400 hitter because you ban the shift. Like, it might be marginal improvements. Which, okay, if a guy like, we'll use Joey Gallo since he's still playing, or I don't know, is there anyone on the Orioles, a good example, that gets really hurt by the shift? I can't think of any off the top of my head. But like, if you got a guy, if he's only hitting like 20 points higher, like, what's the harm in that? Right? I feel like that's good. He's not going to be a 210 hitter. Is not going to start hitting 410. It's going to be small changes, small improvements. And I feel like for hitters, I don't play professional baseball, so I don't know. if you're getting that extreme shift every time, I know you have some people who just say, well, just bunt it down the third base line, just tap it down the third base line. Well, you can't just do that. Like, it's not that easy. So, like, of course, I'm going to go up there thinking, all right, well, if I got this hard shift, I can hit. How many times have we seen that you look on StatCast and it's like a 990 expected batting average because it's hit so hard in a good spot? That should be a hit 99% of the time. But, like, if I'm in that situation and I know, well, I can just hit a nice hard line drive and get a base hit, I might feel a little bit more comfortable at the plate. So, I don't know.
Yeah, guys, what percentage of the league is throwing above 95 mile an hour at this point with insane sliders? Yeah, just put it right down there. No problem. Not everybody's Cedric Mullins, so.
Yeah.
Well, so we'll be interested to follow how these rule changes play out in the minor leagues this year. Hopefully hear from the players firsthand during the season, how it's affecting their play or not affecting their play. So before we wrap up tonight's episode, we've covered a lot. Any final thoughts, starting with Bob?
Yeah, I think the one rule change that I forgot real quick was the robo umps, and I'm for the automatic strike zone as long as they can nail it down. I don't think it's ready yet, so I think if you get it right, fine, but don't want to. It would be a catastrophe if they put it in there and there's balls going right down the middle that are getting called a ball and all that stuff. But yeah, I would just say you only miss 100% of the shots you don't take or something. So I had to put the question about Michael Eisen there. Let's get it in his brain. Maybe it'll work its way in there, and then eventually he'll be like, "Yeah, I will do that." It was for the fans. That was for the fans.
We gotta have lofty goals here. Yeah, this is fun. Always enjoy talking with Matt Blood. 2-time guest now, Matt Blood, which is just mind blowing that I never thought we would get this big, and here we are. And it's because everyone that's listening, like you guys, listen every single week. I greatly appreciate it. I know Bob and Zach do as well. Check out Bob's piece on BaltimoreSportsLife.com today, talking about everybody's favorite pitching prospect. You're welcome because of Zach Peak. Yeah, he's going to explode this year. He'll be in the major leagues in 2023, opening day rotation. Bookmark this clip. Send it to him.
Yeah, that was an excellent piece, Bob. And you're talking to John Rhodes soon, or you have already talked to him, right?
I haven't talked to him yet, but we should get that lined up pretty soon, hopefully this week. Yeah, that was stressful and a lot of fun at the same time. I'm trying to expand my repertoire as a writer, and did an interview and integrated those quotes into the piece, and hopefully it went well. I enjoyed writing it. I enjoyed talking to Zach, as always. He's a great guy, hard worker. I think he, like Nick said, he's going to blow up. And if he doesn't, it's not because of any lack of effort on his own. The guy puts in the work, and he's got great stuff. So, yeah, thank you.
Well, we'll be back tomorrow night with another live episode as John Mioli, the author of Maximizing Playoff Odds, a Baltimore Orioles newsletter, joins us to talk about his work on the newsletter as well as in the new Baseball America Prospect Handbook. Thank you to Matt Blood for appearing on tonight's episode. And remember to follow us on Twitter at BSL on the Verge, and to check out BaltimoreSportsandLife.com, where you'll not only find Bob's piece, but other coverage of the Orioles and sports such as college basketball, the NFL, and more. Be sure to join the message board there and hop into the discussion with fellow readers as well as writers on the site. For Bob Phil and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to On the Verge.